Richard Kane walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The veteran diplomat had seen many things in his 40 years of service, but nothing prepared him for this moment. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Morgan carried a briefcase, filled with Earth's greatest achievements, proof of human intelligence and capability that she hoped would impress these alien rulers. The chamber stretched before them like a cathedral made of living crystal. Thousands of seats rose in concentric circles, filled with beings that looked like nightmares from human imagination. The Zephyrians dominated the center, tall, gray-skinned creatures with elongated heads and eyes like black pools. Around them sat the insectoid Krexti, their chittering voices creating a constant buzz of noise. The crystalline Veltari caught the light from overhead, casting rainbow patterns across the walls. In special atmospheric containers, the gaseous Nethrons swirled in patterns that hurt human eyes to follow. At the center of it all sat Supreme Chancellor Vex Thul, the most powerful being in known space. His presence made the air itself feel heavy and oppressive. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the chamber without any visible amplification. "So these are the humans," Vex Thul said, his tone carrying the same interest one might show for an unusual insect. "The primitive species from the third planet of an unremarkable star system." Richard stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Honorable Chancellor, we come as representatives of Earth and all humanity. We seek peaceful relations with the Galactic Council and hope to contribute to the greater good of all civilized species." Laughter erupted from the alien assembly. The sound was harsh and grating, like metal scraping against stone. Several Krexti clicked their mandibles in what humans had learned was their version of amusement. "Civilized," Vexthul repeated, savoring the word like something bitter. "Tell me, human, how many of your own species have you killed in wars? How many times have you poisoned your own world with weapons and waste? How many centuries did it take you to achieve basic space travel?" Dr. Morgan felt her face burn with shame, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Chancellor, humanity has indeed made mistakes in our past, but we have learned and grown. We have achievements in quantum physics, terraforming technology, and adaptive problem-solving that we believe could benefit the galactic community." She opened her briefcase and activated a holographic display showing Earth's space stations, the Mars colonies, and the breakthrough discoveries in faster-than-light communication. The images hung in the air between the human delegation and the alien rulers. A Veltari representative spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "Crude attempts at mimicking technologies we perfected millennia ago. These achievements are what our children accomplish as learning exercises." Vexthul raised one long-fingered hand for silence. "The Galactic Council has decided Earth's fate. You will be granted probationary status within our civilization. This is a generous offer considering your species' obvious limitations." Richard felt a chill run down his spine. "What does probationary status entail, Chancellor?" "Simple requirements," Vexthul replied, his voice taking on a bureaucratic tone that made the words even more frightening. "First, Earth will surrender all military vessels and weapons to Council oversight. Your species clearly cannot be trusted with such dangerous tools." The human delegates exchanged glances. Richard cleared his throat carefully. "Chancellor, surely some defensive capabilities are necessary for any sovereign world?" "Sovereign?" A Krexti general clicked its mandibles rapidly. "You misunderstand your position, human. You are not sovereign. You are probationary members under our guidance and protection." Vexthul continued as if there had been no interruption. "Second, Earth will provide tribute to the Council in the form of raw materials. Your planet's resources will be allocated according to galactic needs. Third, a percentage of your population will serve in Council work programs throughout our territory." Dr. Morgan's scientific mind quickly processed what she was hearing. Work programs meant slavery. Resource allocation meant strip mining. The removal of military assets meant helplessness. "Chancellor, these terms seem rather harsh for a species seeking peaceful cooperation." "Harsh?" Vexthul leaned forward in his throne-like chair. "Child, you fail to grasp the reality of your situation. The Council has observed your species for decades. We know of your violence, your short-sighted thinking, your inability to cooperate even among your own kind. We offer you guidance and structure. Without us, humanity will destroy itself within a few generations." A Nethron representative's gaseous form swirled faster as it spoke through a translator device. The human brain is too small for complex long-term planning. The human lifespan is too brief for genuine wisdom. The human emotional system is too unstable for rational decision-making. These are scientific facts, not opinions. Richard felt anger building in his chest but kept his voice level. We respectfully request time to consider these terms and consult with our government. 1 Earth year, Vexthol declared. At the end of that time, Council forces will arrive at Earth to implement these changes. Compliance will make the transition easier for all involved. And if Earth chooses not to comply? Dr. Morgan asked, though she dreaded the answer. The chamber fell silent except for the constant chittering of the Krexti. Vexthol's black eyes seemed to look right through the human delegation. Then corrective measures will be taken. The Council has pacified many rebellious species over the millennia. We have extensive experience in bringing order to chaos. As the human delegation was escorted from the chamber, they could hear the alien rulers discussing their fate as if they were not even present. One Zephyrian commented that humans would make excellent workers in the antimatter mines of Rigel 7th. A Krexti suggested that human adaptability would be useful for colonizing hostile worlds. The Veltari representative wondered aloud if human brain patterns might be interesting to study before the species was properly domesticated. Richard and Lisa walked in silence through the corridors of the Council complex. Around them, alien beings went about their daily business with the casual confidence of a species that had never known defeat. The architecture itself seemed designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. Only when they reached their quarters did Richard finally speak. Lisa, I want you to remember everything you saw today. Every detail about their technology, their attitudes, their weaknesses. Dr. Morgan nodded grimly. Already doing it. Did you notice how they keep talking about their ancient achievements? How they mentioned pacifying other species over millennia? I noticed they seem very sure that compliance is humanity's only option, Richard replied. They have no idea what humans are capable of when we're backed into a corner. Outside their window, the alien city of Nexus Prime stretched toward the horizon. Billions of beings lived and worked under the assumption that the current galactic order would last forever. None of them could imagine that 2 representatives from a primitive species were already planning their downfall. The Council's first mistake had been underestimating humanity. It would also be their last. President Janet Walsh sat at the head of the Situation Room table, her face carved from stone as she listened to Richard Kane's report. Around the table, America's top military and intelligence leaders absorbed every word with growing anger. The overhead screen showed detailed recordings of the Council chambers, captured by hidden devices in Dr. Morgan's equipment. General Marcus Stone slammed his fist on the polished table. Slavery and strip mining. They want to turn Earth into their personal resource depot, and humans into their workforce. Admiral Claire Johnson studied the technical data Lisa Morgan had gathered. Their fleet compositions are impressive but predictable. Traditional formations, standard tactics. They fight like people who haven't faced real opposition in centuries. Intelligence Director Paul Martinez was already thinking 3 steps ahead. The public cannot know the real terms. If word gets out that we're essentially surrendering to alien overlords, panic will destroy our ability to respond effectively. President Walsh nodded slowly. We'll announce that Earth has joined the galactic community as junior partners. A learning opportunity. The real terms stay classified at the highest levels. Dr. Morgan opened her briefcase and spread technical diagrams across the table. I managed to scan several of their systems during our visit. Their technology is advanced but standardized, mass-produced. No innovation in their designs for what looks like thousands of years. Explain, Walsh commanded. They've grown comfortable. Madam President, their weapons, ships, even their communication systems follow patterns that haven't changed in millennia. They have overwhelming superiority in numbers and raw power, but zero creativity in application. Dr. Kevin Wright, head of Advanced Weapons Research, leaned forward with interest. You're saying they've become predictable? More than that, Lisa replied. They've become lazy. I detected at least 12 critical vulnerabilities in their orbital defense platforms alone. Their shielding technology has gaps. Their power systems have specific failure points. Most importantly, each species has biological weaknesses they've never bothered to address. Admiral Johnson activated a secure communications link. Captain Amy Rodriguez, report to the Situation Room immediately. Priority Alpha. Within minutes, Rodriguez entered and stood at attention. Walsh gestured for her to sit. "Captain, you're about to receive the most classified briefing in human history. Nothing said in this room can ever be repeated." For the next 2 hours, they laid out humanity's desperate situation and the beginning of their response. Rodriguez listened without comment until the end. "Madam President, you're asking me to build a secret fleet using technology we barely understand, with resources we're supposed to be shipping to aliens, while maintaining the appearance of total compliance." "That's exactly what I'm asking," Walsh replied. "Can it be done?" Rodriguez thought for a moment. "Give me Dr. Wright's research team, unlimited access to the asteroid mining facilities, and authority to recruit from every branch of the military. I'll build you a fleet that will make the aliens regret they ever heard of Earth." General Stone activated another secure channel. "We're going to need facilities. Deep underground, shielded from orbital surveillance. Construction has to begin immediately and remain completely invisible." "Already working on it," Martinez interjected. "We have abandoned missile silos throughout the American Midwest, unused subway systems under major cities, and natural cave networks that can be expanded. I'm also coordinating with allied nations for similar facilities worldwide." Dr. Wright pulled up holographic displays of captured alien technology. "We can reverse engineer their systems, but we need to do more than just copy them. We need to improve them, weaponize them in ways they never intended." "What kind of improvements?" Walsh asked. "Their energy weapons are powerful but inefficient. We can create focused versions that cut through their shielding like paper. Their ships are heavily armored, but depend on centralized power cores. Take out the core and the entire vessel becomes a floating tomb." Dr. Morgan added her own insights. "Each alien species has specific biological vulnerabilities. The Zephyrians require a particular atmospheric mixture. Disrupt that and they suffocate. The Krexti are extremely sensitive to certain electromagnetic frequencies. The Veltari cannot function in temperature extremes. The Netheran lose cohesion if their containment fields are disrupted with the right harmonic frequency." Admiral Johnson was already making plans. "We'll need submarine construction facilities for building ships underwater. Asteroid hollowing operations for hidden bases. Most critically, we need to start training personnel for unconventional warfare." "Unconventional how?" General Stone inquired. "The aliens expect civilized warfare with established rules and predictable tactics. They're used to enemies who fight like they do. Organized formations, standard strategies, honor codes. We're going to fight like humans have always fought when survival is at stake." Captain Rodriguez understood immediately. Guerrilla tactics. Hit-and-run attacks. Targeting civilian infrastructure. Psychological warfare designed to break their will rather than just their military. President Walsh stood and walked to the window overlooking the Potomac. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have 11 months to prepare for the most important war in human history. A war that officially will never happen. A war where defeat means the end of human freedom forever." She turned back to face the room. "We're going to publicly comply with every demand they make. We'll decommission our visible military assets. We'll start shipping resources to their worlds. We'll even send volunteers for their work programs. But every action will serve our real purpose." Dr. Wright activated another display showing a timeline. "Phase 1 is resource acquisition. We strip mine asteroids for raw materials while appearing to mine them for the aliens. Phase 2 is construction. We build our fleet and weapons in complete secrecy. Phase 3 is infiltration. Our people on their worlds gather intelligence and prepare for coordinated strikes." "And Phase 4? Martinez asked. Walsh's voice was cold as winter steel. Phase 4 is showing the Galactic Council what happens when you threaten humanity's children. Over the following months, the plan unfolded with precision. To outside observers, Earth appeared to be grudgingly complying with Council demands. Visible military installations were shut down, their personnel reassigned to civilian roles. Cargo ships loaded with Earth's resources began regular runs to alien worlds. But beneath the surface, humanity was transforming itself into a weapon. Deep underground, Dr. Wright's teams worked around the clock to create weapons that would make alien nightmares seem pleasant. Hidden in asteroid bases, Captain Rodriguez oversaw the construction of ships designed for one purpose: killing aliens as efficiently as possible. The volunteers who shipped out to work on Council worlds were actually highly trained operatives. Led by soldiers like Lieutenant Dan Foster and Sergeant Lisa Parker, they mapped alien infrastructure, identified key targets, and prepared for the day when Earth would strike back. Small accidents began occurring throughout Council space. Communication arrays failed due to apparent technical malfunctions. Cargo ships disappeared while traveling through areas known to have spatial anomalies. Survey teams went missing on frontier worlds with dangerous wildlife. The Council attributed these incidents to the normal hazards of space travel and the incompetence of their human workers. They never suspected that Earth was systematically weakening their infrastructure while gathering intelligence for a coordinated attack. As the deadline approached, President Walsh received regular updates from all operations. The fleet was ahead of schedule. The weapons exceeded all expectations. Most importantly, human agents throughout Council space were ready to act. The trap was nearly complete. Soon the hunters would become the hunted. Captain Jake Phillips stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the massive Galactic Council fleet emerge from hyperspace. Hundreds of warships filled the void between Earth and Moon, their alien designs both beautiful and terrifying. At the center of the formation, Chancellor Vexthal's flagship dominated the view like a floating city of metal and crystal. Phillips wore the uniform of Earth's Planetary Defense Force, but the insignia had been modified to show humanity's new subordinate status. His expression was carefully crafted to show defeated resignation, mixed with grudging respect for Council power. Inside, his heart pounded with anticipation. The communication system crackled to life with an alien voice speaking heavily accented English. Human vessel, prepare to receive the Supreme Chancellor and his staff. Any attempt at deception or resistance will result in immediate destruction. Understood, Phillips replied, injecting just the right amount of nervous fear into his voice. Luna Station is prepared to receive the Chancellor. All Earth Defense Forces are standing by for surrender protocols. Commander Sarah Blake stood beside him, her own uniform similarly modified. Her role was to play the defeated Earth officer providing detailed intelligence to the victorious aliens. Like Phillips, she had spent months rehearsing her part in this deadly theater. When Chancellor Vexthal materialized on the station's main deck, he was accompanied by an intimidating entourage of Council military leaders. The Zephyrian ruler surveyed the assembled humans with the satisfaction of a predator examining cornered prey. Captain Phillips, Vexthal said, his voice carrying the tone of someone addressing a particularly dim servant. I trust Earth is prepared to honor the terms of our agreement. Phillips bowed deeply. Yes, Chancellor. President Walsh has authorized me to formally surrender all remaining military assets to Council authority. Our fleet commanders are standing by to transfer control of their vessels. Excellent. And the orbital defense platforms? Powered down and ready for Council inspection teams, Blake interjected. All weapon systems have been disabled per your specifications. Vexthal nodded approvingly. The Council appreciates Earth's wisdom in avoiding unnecessary conflict. Your species will benefit greatly from proper guidance. Over the following weeks, the occupation proceeded exactly as the aliens had planned. Council forces established bases on every continent, with Zephyrian commanders taking control of major population centers. The insectoid Krexti claimed mineral-rich regions for immediate exploitation. Beltari science teams began studying Earth's biosphere for potential terraforming projects. The gaseous Nethron took control of atmospheric research stations. Phillips and Blake worked closely with the occupation forces, providing detailed maps and intelligence about Earth's infrastructure. Every facility they revealed was carefully chosen, important enough to seem valuable but ultimately expendable. The real assets remained hidden beneath layers of deception and misdirection. Your species is remarkably compliant, observed General Kethvar, a Zephyrian military commander who had taken residence in the former Pentagon building. We expected more resistance from such a violent race, Blake nodded respectfully. Our leaders understand the futility of opposing Council authority. Humanity wishes only to prove worthy of membership in galactic civilization. The alien general seemed pleased by this response. Wisdom. We have dealt with many species who chose the path of futile resistance. Their worlds are now asteroid fields, their populations extinct. Earth has chosen survival. Meanwhile, human civilians were being processed for transport to Council worlds. The aliens selected the healthiest and most intelligent individuals for their work programs, believing they were taking Earth's best and brightest. They never suspected that many of these volunteers were actually elite military operatives, led by soldiers like Lieutenant Dan Foster. Foster reported to the Krexti Processing Center in former New York, his military bearing carefully disguised beneath the posture of a defeated civilian. Around him, Dozens of other Special Forces operatives maintained their cover as they prepared for transport to alien worlds. The Crexty overseer examined Foster with compound eyes that reflected light like polished gems. You are assigned to industrial operations on Hive World 7. Your species' adaptability will be useful for dangerous work that our citizens cannot perform. I understand, Foster replied with perfect submission. I will serve the Council faithfully. On the other side of the world, Sergeant Lisa Parker was processing through a Veltari collection center. The crystalline beings communicated through harmonic frequencies that made human teeth ache, but their translator devices rendered their words into cold, clinical English. This specimen shows acceptable problem-solving capabilities, the Veltari examiner noted. Assignment to crystal farming operations on Colony World 12. Parker bowed her head in apparent resignation, while mentally cataloging every detail of the alien facility around her. Security protocols, communication systems, structural weaknesses, all information that would prove vital in the coming storm. As the months passed, Council leaders grew increasingly confident in their successful conquest of Earth. Chancellor Vexthul took personal tours of major human cities, accepting the forced adoration of crowds that had been carefully staged by Blake's teams. He particularly enjoyed visiting the ruins of military installations, seeing them as symbols of humanity's acceptance of their proper place in the galactic order. Your President Walsh shows remarkable wisdom, Vexthul told Phillips during one of these tours. Lesser leaders might have chosen futile resistance. She has spared her people unnecessary suffering. Phillips nodded earnestly. President Walsh understands that humanity's future lies in serving the greater good of galactic civilization. The alien leader seemed satisfied by this response, never noticing the cold rage burning behind the human captain's eyes. Throughout Council space, human workers labored in mines, factories, and research facilities. To their alien overseers, they appeared broken and compliant, grateful for the opportunity to serve their betters. The reality was far different. Foster and his team on Hive World 7 had mapped every critical system in the Crexty industrial complex. They knew which power conduits supplied the atmospheric processors, which communication arrays connected to the planetary defense grid, and which structural supports held up the massive hive structures. Parker's group on the Veltari crystal farms had identified the precise harmonic frequencies that could shatter the aliens' crystalline bodies. They had also located the central processing facilities where the crystals that powered Council technology were grown and refined. Similar intelligence gathering was taking place on dozens of Council worlds, as human agents systematically identified every weakness and vulnerability in the alien infrastructure. All of this information flowed back to Earth through communication channels the aliens never suspected existed. Admiral Johnson monitored these reports from her secret command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The hidden fleet was ready. Dr. Wright's weapons had exceeded every expectation. Most importantly, human agents throughout Council space were in position for coordinated strikes. President Walsh reviewed the final preparations from her underground command post. Above, the world continued its charade of submission. But below the surface, humanity had transformed itself into the most dangerous weapon in galactic history. The trap was complete. The prey had walked into the killing ground of their own free will. Soon the Galactic Council would learn why Earth had produced so many predators, and why humanity had never learned to submit to anyone. At exactly Euro 300 Galactic Standard Time, the galaxy learned what human fury looked like when unleashed without restraint. Lieutenant Dan Foster stood in the power control center of Hive World 7, surrounded by the humming machinery that kept 40 million Crexty alive in their underground city. For months he had mopped floors and hauled equipment in this facility, invisible to the alien workers who considered him little more than a useful animal. Now he placed his hand on the activation switch for the electromagnetic pulse device his team had built from scavenged components. "This is for every human child who will grow up free," he whispered and pressed the switch. The pulse tore through the hive's electrical systems like lightning through water. In seconds, every piece of electronic equipment in the complex went dark. Emergency lighting failed. Life support systems crashed. Communication arrays died. The Crexty workers around Foster began chittering in panic as their compound eyes failed to adjust to the sudden darkness. Foster activated his night vision goggles and drew the plasma weapon he had kept hidden for 8 months. The Krexti might be deadly fighters in the light, but they were helpless in complete darkness. His team moved through the facility like ghosts, eliminating any alien who might pose a threat to their mission. 3 levels below, Specialist Amy, Chen was completing her own assignment in the Atmospheric Processing Center. The Krexti required a precise mixture of gases to survive, and Chen had spent weeks learning exactly how to disrupt that mixture in the most lethal way possible. She opened the valves on canisters filled with hydrogen sulfide, a gas that was instantly fatal to the insectoid aliens but merely unpleasant to humans with proper breathing equipment. The toxic cloud spread through the ventilation system, carrying death to thousands of Krexti who never had time to understand what was happening. On Colony World 12, Sergeant Lisa Parker and her team struck at the heart of Veltari civilization. The crystalline beings had built their cities around massive resonance chambers that amplified their harmonic communication. Parker had discovered that these same chambers could be turned into weapons with the right frequency modulation. She connected her sonic disruptor to the central resonance chamber and began broadcasting the frequency that shattered Veltari physiology. The sound was inaudible to human ears but devastating to the aliens. Across the Crystal City, thousands of Veltari began cracking and falling apart like broken glass. The attack spread beyond individual worlds as Admiral Johnson's hidden fleet emerged from quantum shadows and asteroid bases throughout Council space. The ships had been designed with one purpose: to kill aliens as efficiently as possible. Every weapon, every system, every tactical program was optimized for maximum lethality against Council species. Captain Amy Rodriguez led her destroyer squadron in a devastating attack on Nexus Prime's orbital defenses. The alien platforms had been built to withstand conventional attacks, but Rodriguez's ships carried weapons that exploited specific vulnerabilities in Council technology. Her quantum torpedoes phased through the enemy shields and detonated inside their power cores. Her particle beams were tuned to frequencies that turned the aliens' armor into superheated plasma. Her assault craft carried boarding parties armed with atmosphere suits and weapons designed to function in the vacuum of space. "All ships, weapons free," Rodriguez commanded over the tactical network. "Remember, we're not here to capture anything. We're here to destroy everything that isn't human." The Zephyrian defense fleet scrambled to respond, but they had grown complacent after millennia of unchallenged dominance. Their formations were predictable, their tactics outdated, their response time fatally slow. Human ships struck like wolves attacking sheep, coordinating their attacks with vicious precision. Captain Jake Phillips coordinated the ground assault on Council worlds from his command ship in the Sol system. The orbital platforms that had seemed so formidable were actually death traps once their crews realized they were surrounded by human agents who had spent months mapping every weakness. On Nexus Prime, Commander Sarah Blake led a team of combat engineers in an assault on the Council's central government complex. The building had stood for thousands of years as a symbol of galactic order. Blake intended to reduce it to rubble before the sunset. Her demolition charges were placed at precise structural points that would cause the entire complex to collapse inward on itself. The Zephyrian guards who tried to stop her discovered that human soldiers fought with a brutality that their civilized minds could not comprehend. Blake personally executed the Council's senior staff with plasma rounds to the head, her face showing no emotion, as beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia begged for mercy they would never receive. This was not civilized warfare with established rules and honor codes. This was extermination. The psychological warfare proved even more devastating than the physical attacks. Dr. Lisa Morgan had prepared broadcasts that were transmitted simultaneously to every Council world, describing in clinical detail how human forces would dismantle alien civilization piece by piece. President Walsh herself delivered the final message, her voice cold and emotionless as she outlined humanity's terms for the aliens' surrender. "You had 1 year to learn about humanity. You chose to see us as primitive animals suitable for slavery. Now you will learn what animals do when they are cornered and fighting for their young." The message continued with specific descriptions of how each alien species would be eliminated if they continued to resist. The Zephyrians would suffocate in their own poisoned atmosphere. The Krexti would be burned out of their hives with chemical weapons. The Veltari would be shattered by sonic attacks. The Netheron would watch their gaseous forms dissipate in the vacuum of space. "This is not a negotiation," Walsh concluded. "This is a notification. Humanity has decided that you are a threat to our children's future. We are removing that threat permanently." The broadcast was accompanied by live footage from the attacks, showing alien cities burning and council fleets being systematically destroyed. The images were designed to break the aliens' will to fight by demonstrating the futility of resistance. On Earth itself, the council occupation forces found themselves trapped in a nightmare. The humans they had been governing revealed themselves as soldiers who had been planning this moment for months. Every collaboration had been calculated. Every piece of intelligence had been fed to the aliens deliberately. Every advantage the council thought they possessed was actually a vulnerability humans were ready to exploit. General Marcus Stone emerged from his underground command center to personally oversee the destruction of the alien bases on Earth. The Zephyrian compounds were hit with atmospheric weapons that turned their controlled environments into poison chambers. The Krexti mining operations were collapsed with seismic charges that buried the aliens alive. The Veltari research stations were destroyed with harmonic weapons that turned their crystal technology against them. Within 6 hours of the attack's beginning, organized council resistance had collapsed. Their fleets were scattered or destroyed. Their worlds were under human control. Their leaders were dead or captured. The Galactic Council that had ruled space for thousands of years ceased to exist in a single day. Chancellor Vexthul was captured during the fall of Nexus Prime, dragged from his throne room by human marines who showed him exactly as much respect as he had shown humanity. The proud alien ruler who had dismissed humans as primitive animals now cowered before soldiers who had proven that sometimes the primitive approach was the most effective. As reports poured in from across council space, Admiral Johnson stood on the bridge of humanity's new flagship, looking out at the burning remains of what had once been the galaxy's greatest civilization. The aliens had made one critical error in their assessment of humanity. They had confused civilization with weakness. They had learned too late that humans were capable of incredible violence when their survival was threatened. The galaxy would never make that mistake again. 6 months after the destruction of the Galactic Council, the galaxy had been completely transformed under human rule. Former Chancellor Vexthul knelt in shackles before a human tribunal, his gray skin pale with terror as he faced the species he had once dismissed as primitive animals. Director Paul Martinez sat at the head of the tribunal, flanked by General Stone and Admiral Johnson. The chamber was deliberately stark and intimidating, designed to break the spirit of any alien who dared to challenge human authority. Behind them, recordings played showing the complete devastation of council worlds and the systematic elimination of alien resistance. "Vexthul of the former Zephyrian Empire," Martinez began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, "you stand accused of crimes against humanity, conspiracy to enslave an entire species, and the attempted destruction of Earth's sovereignty. How do you plead?" The once proud alien ruler trembled as he spoke. "Mercy, great humans. I offer the complete surrender of my people. We will serve faithfully. We will provide tribute. We will give you technology, resources, even our own children as hostages. Please, show us the mercy we did not show you." Martinez studied the alien with the same cold interest Vexthul had once shown toward humanity. "You misunderstand the situation. This is not a negotiation. This is a sentencing." President Walsh, now styling herself as Empress of the Terran Empire, entered the chamber wearing a uniform that incorporated elements of all the conquered alien civilizations. Her presence filled the room with an authority that made even the human officials straighten in their chairs. "Vexthul," she said, her voice carrying the tone of someone discussing a minor administrative matter, "your species had thousands of years to develop wisdom. Instead, you used that time to perfect cruelty and oppression. You saw humanity's potential and chose to crush it rather than nurture it. Now you will face the consequences of that choice." The alien began to weep, a disturbing sight that combined human-like tears with alien features. "Empress, surely there is some arrangement we can reach. My people have knowledge of the Outer Rim territories. There are other species, other threats to human expansion. We can serve as guides, as advisors." Admiral Johnson activated a holographic display showing the current state of former council space. Every world was marked with human occupation forces. Every space station flew Earth's new galactic flag. Every asteroid mining operation was supervised by human overseers. The Terran Empire has no need for guides or advisors, Johnson replied. We have our own methods for dealing with threats to human expansion. Dr. Kevin Wright entered the chamber carrying a briefcase filled with technical specifications. His weapons development teams had spent the months since victory perfecting technologies that made Council science look primitive by comparison. Human innovation, freed from the constraints of alien oversight, had achieved breakthroughs that seemed impossible. Empress, Wright reported, the terraforming of former Council worlds is proceeding ahead of schedule. Zephyrian atmospheric processors have been modified to create Earth-normal environments. Krexti industrial complexes are being retooled for human manufacturing. Feltari crystal farms now produce materials for our quantum communication networks. Walsh nodded approvingly. And the population relocations? General Stone stepped forward with his own report. All surviving Council species have been transported to designated reservation worlds under human supervision. The Zephyrians have been settled on a world with a controlled atmosphere that requires constant human maintenance. The Krexti are confined to underground facilities that can be sealed at any time. The Veltari are contained in temperature-controlled environments that depend on human-operated systems. The message was clear. Every surviving alien species existed at humanity's discretion and could be eliminated instantly if they posed any threat to the new order. Vexthal looked up with desperate hope. Then some of my people survive? They are being cared for. Martinez smiled coldly. They are being maintained as long as they remain useful. The moment any alien species becomes more trouble than benefit, they will be eliminated completely. This is not cruelty. It is simple resource management. Dr. Lisa Morgan had spent the months since victory studying the psychological profiles of the defeated alien species. Her research had revealed fascinating insights into how different civilizations responded to complete subjugation. The Zephyrians are adapting poorly, she reported to the tribunal. Their sense of racial superiority is too ingrained. We estimate 70% will need to be eliminated to ensure compliance from the survivors. The Krexti are more pragmatic, she continued. Their hive mentality makes them excellent workers once proper authority is established. We recommend keeping them as a labor force. The Veltari have essentially gone catatonic, Morgan concluded. Their inability to process the concept of defeat has resulted in mass psychological breakdown. They may not be viable as a species. Walsh considered these reports with the detached interest of someone reviewing quarterly production figures. Eliminate the Zephyrians who cannot adapt. Maintain the Krexti as long as they remain productive. Study the Veltari to determine if their psychological state has any research value. The casual discussion of genocide and species elimination was conducted in the same tone that pre-war Earth leaders had used to discuss trade agreements. This was the new reality. Human interests were the only interests that mattered in the galaxy. Captain Amy Rodriguez had been promoted to Admiral of the Outer Rim Fleet, tasked with exploring beyond former Council space to identify potential new threats or resources. Her reports described dozens of minor species that had existed on the fringes of galactic civilization, all of them now falling under human dominance. The species in Sector 7 have shown some technological promise, Rodriguez reported during a staff meeting. Their biotechnology could be useful for terraforming operations. However, they have also shown signs of forming an alliance against human expansion. General Stone leaned forward with interest. Military threat assessment? Negligible, Rodriguez replied. Their combined fleets would pose no significant challenge to a single human task force. However, the precedent of allowing resistance to organize could encourage other species to unite against us. Walsh's decision was swift and final. Eliminate them completely. We cannot allow the possibility of organized resistance to take root. The galaxy must understand that cooperation with humanity is the only option for survival. As the months passed, human colonists spread across former Council worlds like a tide of expansion that nothing could stop. Earth's children built gleaming cities on the ashes of alien civilizations, creating a new galactic order based on human superiority and alien subjugation. The final scene took place on the bridge of the UES Retribution, humanity's new flagship orbiting the ruins of what had once been Nexus Prime. Admiral Johnson stood at the observation window, watching human construction crews building a new capital city where the Council chambers had once stood. A junior officer approached with a communication intercept. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from the far galactic rim. It appears several alien species are forming what they call the Liberation Alliance. They claim they're going to free the galaxy from human tyranny." Johnson smiled coldly as she read the transmission details. The aliens were making the same mistake the Council had made. They saw humanity as a threat to be eliminated rather than a force of nature to be avoided. "Set course for the galactic rim," she ordered. "Signal the Empress that we have new work to do." Below them, human children played in parks built on the foundations of alien government buildings. Above them, the stars beckoned with infinite possibilities for expansion and conquest. The galaxy had learned that humanity's capacity for violence was matched only by their determination never to be threatened again. The age of human dominance had begun, written in the ashes of every species foolish enough to challenge Earth's children, and in the cold depths of space more challenges awaited, all destined to become footnotes in the history of humanity's relentless rise to total galactic supremacy.